Guys, we've made it to the week 3 feedback video. This is day 21. If you've got through 20 days of Figuary, that means you're one of the tough ones, the ones with perseverance, so well done to you. Because this is a tough challenge, and actually next week it's going to get even tougher, but we'll talk about that later. So let's look at some of the drawings from this past week, especially the foreshortening. The first one I want to look at is Koshka. Now Koshka, the thing that I really like about Koshka's drawing is Koshka did not shy away from keeping the thing that's near us, which is the legs, big, and the thing that's further away, the head and the torso, small. So did not undo those elements of the foreshortening. But the element of the foreshortening that I think was undone was the shortening. Like, I think that Koshka elongated the legs down. So there's two things that can happen when we are dealing with foreshortening. One is we get the shortening, but then we make everything too narrow and small, and we just shrink everything. And we'll see some examples of that later. But the other thing that can happen is that you undo the shortening and you stretch out and lengthen the foreshortened thing. In this case, I felt like the legs had become much longer than they needed to be. So keep the width and the volume, which is great, and the general size is great, but then just shorten it down, because that's what the foreshortening is doing. The other thing that I liked that Koshka did was have some kind of cross contour lines around the thigh and the legs and stuff. But just be careful not to make those cross contours too shallow, because, you know, if you ask someone to draw something, you know, like cylindrical, say, from an angle and draw the cross contours around it, they'll often make the curves very shallow. But you've got to remember that these curves have to go all the way around. So they're going to get quite deep. You know, as you approach the edges of what you can see, the curves get quite deep. We're going to see an example of someone doing that quite effectively later on. Overall though, I liked the drama in Koshka's drawing because, you know, the legs were kept big, the torso small, kind of exaggerated that aspect of the foreshortening, so it was kind of dramatic and interesting. Okay, next up is Clifton. Clifton has been making leaps and bounds progress throughout Figuary, and I think did a really good job with this difficult pose, figuring out the basic proportions and simple shapes. So the one thing I wanted to say to Clifton is that he had some quite strong contrast and clear edges on some of the stuff that was further away, like on the legs and on the hand and stuff like that. And the stuff that was nearer, like the shoulders and the head, had less contrast, maybe slightly less clear-cut edges. And you kind of want to flip that around so that the strong contrast and the clear edges are on the stuff nearer to us, and it's a little bit vaguer on the edges, maybe a little bit less contrast on the stuff further away, to help give that illusion of depth. Otherwise though, well done to Clifton. So these drawings are by Leslie, and she's done all the hard stuff well. You know, these are tough, unusual poses, and here Leslie has got the proportions in place, got the basic structures in place, dealt with the foreshortening. But Leslie could now start to improve her marks and her curves so that they're more dynamic and interesting. And I'll show some examples in a second by Adam of how you can use more interesting dynamic curves to make, if you've done all the hard stuff already, it's now just a matter of making the drawing more energetic and fun with these curves. So these are Adam's drawings, and these are the kinds of lines I mean when I say bringing out more movement and flow and more dynamic energy into the curves. You know, we talked yesterday about having a vocabulary of gestural curves, and I think Adam has a good vocabulary of gestural curves. Look at how that line comes down the thigh, and then he's emphasized how it flows into the one down the back of the calf. Doesn't that look cool and interesting? And then down the foreshortened arm, he has we talked about how the gesture stops flowing down the arm, but around the form then. And so he brings out those curves. And so, you know, where does Adam bring emphasis to his marks? What kind of lines is he using? You know, for the upper arm, there's a slight outward curve to your upper arm. And so instead of just kind of using straight lines, you can exaggerate that a little bit. And the same in the forearm, it tapers off down to the wrist. And also there's a little bit of an outward curvature to it. And those are the kinds of things that you can bring out and emphasize that character of these different parts of the figure. And that's something that I think Adam's done really well. And I wanted to include that for Leslie, who I think has done all the difficult stuff and now could start to have fun with these kind of curves. And also I have Adam here for his cross contour line around that thigh, because he really did get the depth of the curve. And one way that the way he did that is he went all the way around, including the part of the curve that we can't see around the back of the thigh. So that's a nice way of doing it. So nice examples from Adam. Thank you, Adam. So here's a drawing from Daniel. Daniel's a very skilled artist, great marks, wonderful drawings. I just wanted to pick out this one drawing where I thought something could be improved. So on this one drawing, I felt like, we'd looked earlier at how Koshka had kept the volume and size of the legs, but undone the foreshortening by stretching them out. Here, I think that Daniel has got the shortening, but at the same time shrunk the legs so that they have less volume in them. So that is the other thing that can happen with foreshortening. If you get how short things are, maybe you do some measurement and you make sure that you get, you don't elongate it, but then you might make the whole thing too short, too small. So you make it less wide, you take the volume out of it. So we just wanted to bring that volume back. Just because it's foreshortened doesn't mean it's smaller. It's still got all the volume there. It's not shrunk, it's just shortened, but still got volume. And we want to really emphasize the volume that it still has. So bringing out the butt, the calf was shrunk down a little bit. So that was the main thing for Daniel. Otherwise, what a beautiful drawing. And here are Sofia's drawings, a successful set of drawings overall, but I think Sofia had that same issue like Daniel with this one, where she got the shortening, but then shrank the legs generally and lost the volume in them. So just wanted to bring back some of that volume, keep it wide, keep it voluminous, use those cross contours to really feel the volume there. I kind of wanted to see more people using cross contours because I feel like they really help with keeping and feeling the volume in these foreshortened limbs and stuff. And then the only other thing for Sofia was in this pose, one of the legs is coming back and one is coming forward, and it wasn't immediately clear to the eye that that leg is going back. You need to give the viewers some clues, right? Because they're looking at this thing on a 2D surface and we want them to think it's 3D. And so how do they know that that leg is coming back? One way is you could add that shading. You could add the cast shadow from the one leg onto the other leg, and that makes it clear that that one leg is going back. Or, because this is just a quick drawing, why not just put down those cross contours around the leg, and that will make it instantly clear that it's going back. If you don't want to do that, because the cross contour lines aren't really there, then you could draw the knee and emphasize, the curvature across the top of the knee or something like that, to kind of be a cross contour line and to show which way the leg is going. But you do need to kind of clarify what's happening to the viewer. You need to communicate the basic information, and here the basic information is that leg is going back. So you've got to give them some clues about that. What a great set of drawings, guys. Another amazing week looking over the Instagram posts and the posts on the community. I can't wait to see, this week we've got some challenges. It's going to be tough because we've got clothing, and last year we had some controversy with a moving model, and so we're going to bring that back this year a little bit, and we're going to look this time at how to actually deal with that. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be tough. And just before you guys get on with your practice sessions, just a reminder that our course, which is really powerful and effective for building your foundational observational skills, and it runs for 4 weeks, the enrollment for that is going to open on March 1st, and then the course will start 1 week later. So really excited for that, really looking forward to that. Make sure you enroll after Figuary. Have a good practice session, guys, and I will see you back here tomorrow for day 22 of Figuary and day 1 of learning to draw clothes.